Good morning, good morning. I am so late for the gym today. It's 8 o'clock and I haven't even started. But don't worry, doesn't matter. They're shutting down my office anyway, so I can straggle it. I have like a single appointment all day at 3 and that's it. And I'm still coming down from my happiness high from being at my first wedding. Hopefully there'll be another one pretty soon, but it was a good one. I got completely shit-faced, danced like a crazy person with like 100 people and the bride. Anywho, that's not what I was supposed to talk about, but there you are. So I wanted to touch on something that it's an interesting time right now. It's a horrible it's absolutely ridiculous what's happening in Node.js, the Node.js community now. With, you may or may not have heard that AO, the new fork, is already on GitHub, and everybody's like, oh, the political ramifications of this is going to be significant. And I kind of have to agree. I kind of have to. I'm sorry. I think that this is the dumbest move since, this is the second time in 3 years that they've forked Node. And guys, fucking get your shit together. Get it together. This is not I know that politics has, I wish I could just say that politics is just, it's not important, but yes, it is important to a degree, but weigh that against the cost of muddying the brand of Node, which you are, because you are making that brand less attractive in adoption rate. Now, hopefully you're weighing all of these consequences in before you make a move like this, because you're supposed to be the managers of this very or the guardians, if you will, of this very amazing piece of technology. Now, I was actually not going to talk so much about Node in essence, but rather what I think, or rather what I imagine could be a possible outcome from this. Now, the first and foremost thing that I think may or may not happen is that, things are going to kind of stay the way, that they're going to stay the way that they are. That you're going to have these forks and apart from, of course, the hit to adoption rate that JavaScript is most likely going to take on the server. I mean, anything can happen, of course, but I think that you're going to see a decline in adoption rate if Node and IO because they are rivals at this point. They become like direct rivals. Hopefully, you're gonna see a rivalry very close to what NPM and Yarn are facing right now. They are almost interchangeable. Okay, some of you may get really, oh, Frederick, that's a massive difference between these two. And yes, in a sense there is, but they're so interchangeable that it really doesn't matter which one you go with. You can go with both. I've been on projects where you have Yarn and NPM on the same project, right? So that is, I think, probably the best scenario for the Node.js community, that something like that happens. Or you can take a more destructive route and think that, argue that, oh, there's going to be a fierce political battle between these two platforms, and the cost is going to be that, as I said, adoption rate is going to probably drop, and if we are lucky, one of them emerges victoriously. And whether it's Node or if it's AO or IO or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really matter. I think that there is a possibility that one of them completely crushes the other part, or they go back to do the same thing. They have their fun, the drama is over, they make a change in leadership and merge everything back together, and everybody's happy. And all that happened was that the brand lost a little bit of popularity for a brief moment in time. Happened before. Don't know if it's going to happen this time. Anywho, what I would like to consider is, and this is just me projecting my own thoughts about it. You will know that I am a big advocate of JavaScript. I love JavaScript, and especially Node, and my favorite framework is Express. Now, You've also probably heard me, if you've watched any of my other videos about this. A few things are lacking in JavaScript, and one of those main things is typing or strict types, because types are very powerful. Now, what I want to kind of wake us up to, or like just put on the table to see, as I said, this has absolutely no, like I don't, sorry, so noisy after 6 o'clock. This entire city is woken up. I don't know, like I suppose people have jobs. Anyway, the thing I want to point out is that if you know anything about Go or Golang, you will know that the Go is right, like it's a system level language made by Google, and honestly, it's pretty nice. It is really nice. And what I want to touch on is that one of my absolute favorite things, and I hope that this is the case for Node.js as well, that I argue that there are 3 things that Node does so well that it's actually those are the 3 things that make this such a popular language, especially for smaller companies who want to do prototyping or microservices, because Node is like, you can't say microservices without saying Docker and Node in the same sentence. I don't think it's possible. And I argue that the reason for that is that first and foremost, JavaScript is, it's a universal language. I mean, being able to use the same language you use in the browser on your server, that's massively powerful. That's a benefit that, in of itself, you can argue that that's probably the biggest benefit, or it's a very nice thing to have, because let's remember that, we did actually do server-side development just fine without JavaScript, and some even argue better. But the second thing that they do that is really, really nice is package management. Like NPM, like for whatever you think about them, they did have, like we have the best repository system in the world. A massive community with a lot of contributors. It's very easy to start to get going with this. Now, the third, and in my opinion, the last thing which is very nice, is that JavaScript is very easy to get going with. It's very easy to get up and running, started, and like rapid development, because the language is very small. And there's very little overhead. So why am I talking about Go? Well, because if from my perspective, Go fills one of the most major critical things that Node is doing right now. Yes, Go is not running in the browser, and yes, the package management system in Go isn't great. But I think that the language is very small, it's typed, supports all the things that JavaScript can support and more. It does more at a high performance rate. And now that IntelliJ is, I tried out Gogland or the IntelliJ IDE, one of the earlier releases, and I mean, it was just beautiful. It was great. Better support than I've ever had from Visual Studio Code for JavaScript and stuff. I really enjoyed it. And if you use the native HTTP packages or the standardized templating and HTTP stuff from Go, you will see I hope you'll see the same thing that I saw. This is very close to Express. Like the feel, and it was so easy to get started. I mean, I was up and running with the web server in minutes. And that's pretty interesting to me. This is really, really interesting, because like I know that a big advocate of Node and microservices has been Uber, and they've started using Go for the benefits that Go brings to the table. And if you just indulge me for a moment here and let me kind of just clear my thoughts about this. Imagine Go is, for all intents and purposes, a system level language, but it has really great support for HTTP and like web server. It's built into the standard library of the system or of the programming language. So if you have this benefit, the same benefit, it's a small language, you very easily, like you don't even have to require Express as a package, it's already in there. It's more performant, and you can do all the things in almost a nice, like a very nice way. Like it's, as I said, it doesn't require much from you in terms, like the most complicated thing I think in Go is the concept of pointers, but that's like pointers. Yes, it's a little bit tricky to begin with, but it's not a big hump. So what I would like to think is that, you know, if Google wants, like, I actually think that if Google were to today start to focus on building a really, really good package management system and a strong community, like the just Go community all the way, like just make sure that you're cultivating this, like make something, a repository system or a culture that is as close as you can humanly get to Node and like JavaScript and so forth. I think that we could see a really nice adoption rate on this language. It's this is, as I said, it's just speculation, but it's just my gut tells me that you have an opportunity here. You have an opportunity because the leap from Node over to Go is very small. It's really, really small. I mean, it's, as I said, I almost feel like I'm writing my own a Express server when I'm making something in Go. And it takes a while, like a very, very small amount of time to get used to the new, to like the Go HTTP libraries and how it works. But it's so similar that I really do feel like my initial thought was, hey, this is very Expressy. It's very much like Express. And I think there is something here. I think because I will be honest, like I love JavaScript because of the benefits it gives me, but Go gives me almost the same benefits plus some extra stuff. The only thing, as I said, I think Go is lacking is this massive community and library, all these libraries, all of that stuff. And apart from that, it does everything as well as JavaScript, if not better. So just think about that. I mean, if Google, if you want to disrupt the Node.js community and maybe take over as the default microservices language, I think that is where you should be aiming. And maybe you are, I don't know. Like, this is just me speculating, but that's probably how I would think if I wanted to make Go the next thing. And and honestly, I think there's a strong possibility. Now that AO has come and kind of made this we bring back that problem again in Node. I mean, this just be careful, like all of you guys who are members of the Node.js community and the members and so forth, be careful that this like little fork doesn't become the kiss of death to the popularity that is JavaScript, because I would hate to see that happen. And at the same time, I'm excited about the thought that maybe Go becomes as popular for making microservices and like all of that good stuff as Node has been so far.